So the battle is won, but the war has just begun, and people need to really understand that, because it sounds like there's a lot of euphoria out there. Everyone thinks, oh, the next 4 years we're going to have everything that we desired and wanted, but that's by no means what's going to happen. You're going to have to fight for every single inch of this.
The analogy that I give is we just won the title contender fight. So you should pop champagne, you should have a good time, have a night out, celebrate. You earned it. But it's not the title fight. Now you've qualified to fight for the title. Now you've qualified to actually, have the change and the legacy and the glory that comes from actually having that kind of real world impact. But so I think there is a necessary celebration. The fact is, we did stave off what may have been the darkest chapter in American history after the chapter we're now emerging from. Another 4 years of this may have permanently stained not just the reputation, but the standing of the United States all over the world. It could have tanked our economy. It could have permanently changed the fabric of this country in terms of our trust in institutions, in terms of the functionality of our institutions. The fact is almost every major agency in the federal government broke down. We lost ground internationally. We lost ground economically. Half of our country has had no trust in our election systems, in our Justice Department. It has become a badge of honor for half of the United States to be a felon, to be a criminal, to be indicted by this Justice Department or by some Soros prosecutor in some jurisdiction somewhere. Because if you're not being hunted by these totally corrupt justice officials, are you really threatening to make change in the world? And so that's how bad things have gotten. They tried this whole line, you're voting for a convicted felon. And I think half of this country, more than half of this country, said, yeah, because that's how you really know that you're on the side of good, that you're on the side of light. It's the same argument you guys told us about Nelson Mandela and how many other freedom fighters that were prosecuted by corrupt justice departments to take them out of politics. Well, everything you've taught us since childhood about what it means to truly stand for something. Martin Luther King was prosecuted. Gandhi was prosecuted. Mandela was prosecuted. Okay, well, you just did that to Trump.
Yeah, I was in California, Mike, in August, and speaking to a couple family members, and they were parroting back to me front page of the New York Times, and I was just shocked. Because I think usually I'm in circles hanging out with people like you and Rudy, and I had Navarro on and all these people that literally have taken massive hits for standing up for what they believe in. We've taken ours, and thanks to you, I know where those came from. I used to think it was YouTube persecuting me, and now I realize it was much higher up the food chain. And it was shocking to me to hear these people parrot back these things. He's a rapist. He's a this, is that. And funny enough, yesterday I thought about Mandela, and I did at the time, I didn't, but I would have been like, oh yeah, so Mandela spent 27 years in a prison. Was he guilty of those crimes? And of course, most people would say, well, of course not. He was obviously persecuted because of this and that. And yet, because censorship works, because the media gets inside people's heads, it's a very effective tool. And it caused most of the US to think this was a 50-50 race when it never was. When you look at that amount of misinformation that we got from the polls and the media coming up right to the end, what are your comments on that? I mean, do you look at people and say, you clearly can't trust these sources because they couldn't even tell you within, a margin of error who the president could have been? Or what do you say to people based on what the election results were?
Well, the fact is the betting markets were crystal clear from moment one, and those tend to be a far more honest indicator of sentiment in terms of how institutional money is moving, in terms of how highly informed or high net worth individuals are putting their money. It's almost like a Pelosi tracker or a Soros investment portfolio type thing. I think that there's no skin in the game for the independent pollsters. They're hired mercenaries. Half of them are affiliated with a campaign when they put it out. And so the fact that there was Polymarket and Kalshi and these other very vigorous betting markets, ironically, Just last week, the Justice Department raided the home of the Polymarket CEO, seizing the electronics, seizing the phone, the home computer. When Polymarket was such a big signal for Trump, it's like there's no end to the vindictiveness of the Merrick Garland torture campaign. And I just have to add this one thing as another reason why, even though we have not won the war, that we should still celebrate the battle, is because, Brian, imagine right now if Merrick Garland was going to be running the U.S. Justice Department for the next 4 years and Donald Trump, facing 91 felony indictments, had to spend the rest of his life in Rikers prison, rotting away with the whole world watching one of the most popular presidents in U.S. history die in a prison cell over what? People can't even remember half of the charges. I mean, do you even remember what he was indicted for in New York? Does anyone? Do you think if you were to ask right now what he would be sitting in a Rikers prison cell, rotting away as the rest of world politics plays out, as the Ukraine war plays out, as the Middle East, and meanwhile, the 45th president of the United States is in solitary confinement and nobody can even remember the crime? That's what we very narrowly avoided in this country. So it's not just the opportunity to make change and to alter the course of U.S. history for the good. It's the fact that our country was very, very close to death.
Hey, I know investing in crypto is scary. It takes a real leap of faith because there are so many scams, rug pulls, and bad actors out there. It's a dangerous business, which is why 95% of people lose all their money. Well, that's why I created the London Real Investment Club, so you can access the hottest deals on the planet and use the crypto bull market to create the generational wealth that you deserve. Join my team of over 100 people from around the world that are making millions of dollars behind the scenes investing in blockchain, AI, Web3 games, DeFi, Bitcoin, and more. Don't miss out. Click the link below to book a call with one of my team now. But hurry, this bull market will end soon.
I know investing in crypto can be scary. That's why you gotta join the investment club. Pull the trigger. Let's do this.